once I lay down, it's over. The worst is when I would do that, then I would have to do something for practice.
Meeting order. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, Middletown Patch, and Middletown Township Public Schools District website, and the posting of such notice at the August T. Minor administrative offices in each elementary, middle, and secondary school in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Minuis?
Here.
Mrs. Skolaski?
Here.
Mr. Soporowski?
Here.
Mrs. Tobacco? Mrs. Torres?
Here.
Mrs. Weinstein?
Here.
Mrs. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Capone?
Here.
Mr. Avida?
Here. Need now a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, therefore, by the Middletown Township Board of Education, that the board enters into executive session to discuss the following items: A, confidential matters for statute or court order, collective bargaining matters, and personnel matters. Be it further resolved that the items discussed in executive session may result in board action when the board reconvenes to public session.
Again, for the public, everybody please rise for the pledge. Okay, first thing we have on the agenda is the presentation, the June 30th, 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Mr. Walton?
Good. All right, let's make sure you can hear me. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Again, my name is Brian Waldron. I'm a partner with Holman Fernie Allison. I'm here tonight to just give a brief synopsis of the 2025 financial statements that were submitted to the Department of Education on December 26th is the date of the report. They were submitted prior to the due date of January 15th. We are a little later than we have, actually probably a little sooner in some cases. We are awaiting some information from the state of New Jersey and also information from the federal government releasing some information regarding testing to some of your federal grant monies that we had. I received that right at the end of November. So once we did that, we wrapped it up with your business office to get the reports as soon as we could to you. So everything has been filed on time. So we're going to get right into it. We offer 3 opinions in our financial statements. The first and most important is our independent auditor's report. Just states that our financial statements are fairly stated with all material respects, and we have, in accordance with all the requirements from the Department of Education, the Division of Local Government Services, and your generally accepted accounting principles that you would follow. We have an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that we can render. We have no comments or recommendations inside of the audit. The second opinion is our report on internal control over compliance and major programs. We do a lot of significant testing related to compliance and internal controls, and we have no instances of non-compliance to report in that as well. And since the district receives significant funding from the state and federal government, we do another additional testing, what we call a single audit test. So therefore, we have a third opinion on that as well, and we have no instances of non-compliance over your federal or state grants. So again, all 3 unmodified opinions, again, and the best opinions that we can provide to the district. The one thing I'd just like to point out, Middletown has this in their financial statements, the Certificate of Excellence. I'm not sure how many years now that you've received this in a row, but it's a nationally recognized financial reporting for the financial statements. There were no comments provided back from this federal agency, which is a great thing to see. So, congrats to the board for that. That's a really good accomplishment. It's often that these go out, but not very often that they come back with no comments and findings. And that's not something we review. It comes from the federal agency that puts that out. So it's a nice little kudos to the financial statements they have. This puts together. It's a really kind of condenses everything of this 200 pages into about 5 to 10 pages for you to say more in layman's terms, breaks things down, see how things were increased, decreased during the year. So again, just if you would like to stop reading after those pages, that would you can do so without having to read 200 other pages. Just high level on the actual activity for the year on the general fund, which is your main account. We had roughly about a 1% increase of your revenues this year over your prior year. If you look at that with your expenses, there was about a 1% decrease in expenses, which again, all great to see. However, there was a utilization of roughly $4.4 million in your general fund for this year through various reserves and fund balances that you had. So we had seen about a $3.8 million loss overall as far as your revenues or expenses over your revenues in this case. Brought our total fund balances down to roughly $4 million for the general fund. $3 million of that is what we call unassigned. The rest of that is tied up in various different reserves or encumbrances for your future year. So again, just something to always monitor as far as looking at your overall budget. It's roughly about $185 million budget, at least it was in 2025. So when you look at that, it's roughly represent about 2%, of your surplus. I'll say is, represents your total budget. So just something to continue to monitor. I know that the federal side has decreased due to the COVID funds drying up. But also obviously on our state side, which we all know as far as the decrease in cuts there. Then the last thing I would say, over on your proprietary fund, the school district operates the food service fund, roughly about a $60,000 to $69,000 decrease this year. Something I've said here in a couple of years past is that we need to continue to spend some of the funds to the improvement of the school district for the food service funds. That the state was mandating that happen. Just to note that roughly about $580,000 was spent this year for assets. Things that we would call fixed assets that were to be capitalized and depreciated. So a significant amount of assets are being spent and put back into the school district for the food service programs. Again, I started off by saying that, but I thank you, for having me here tonight. No findings, comments, recommendations is the best thing I can tell you tonight. If there are any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move right into committee reports. Co-curricular, Mr. Saporowski.
So we met last week and we discussed the different clubs that were going on this year, the advisors, the way that students are going to start signing into the club starting next year. They're going to have to scan their ID to get in. This way we know that the clubs are actually being attended and that the stipends that are being paid, the teachers are earning them appropriately. Also, we discussed that the yearbook pictures for non-stipend clubs will be included in the high school yearbooks this year, which is something new. Seasonal updates for the athletics. Cross country, Helena Zepp won individual sectional championship for cross country. Field hockey short conference coaches cup championship. Girls volleyball short conference division champions. For high school south, boys soccer short conference tournament champions. NJSIAA state sectional champions. NJSIAA state finalists, all for boys soccer. Girls cross country were the short conference champions, and the NJSIAA state sectional champions. And for gymnastics, they were the NJSIAA state sectional champions. And Ava Treza was the NJSIAA overall individual state champion. Congratulations. And for winter athletics, the Mayor's Cup ice hockey game for High School North and High School South is going to be on January 29th, 5:15 at Middletown Ice World. The Unified Basketball, Middletown versus Neptune, is February 12th, 5 o'clock at High School South. Girls basketball, neither North or South has a freshman team this year, so no freshman coach was hired. And for spring athletics, just touching on that, the girls softball, the status of the freshman programs at both schools is unknown at this time due to signups and tryouts and everything, so to be continued on that. Other things that we discussed was that we're getting new wrestling mats at High School North and Bayshore. And interestingly enough, one of the mats is being used for one of the wrestling mat, where they're using it for Atlantic City, and then after that's over, they ship it up here. So we get a little bit of a break on the price of the wrestling mat. High School South is going to get new band uniforms, long needed. And overall, the clubs we discussed, also with the clubs we discussed, elementary clubs, and kind of getting on track to get something uniform with all the schools. It was a kind of a beginning discussion. We talked about it last year a little bit, and moving forward, I think with contract negotiations and stuff, it worked on. Thank you.
Thank you. Curriculum, Mr. Wright.
Okay, thank you. We met on the 20th, and we had a pretty big agenda that we went through. A lot of it, I think, was just some really great updates in terms of where we are. So bear with me as I try to go through everything. The first thing we talked about, and this has been going on in the district for a while, is the students just went through their winter assessment using iReady. As you know, we've been using that now 3 times a year, which is really helping the teachers drive personalized instruction throughout the year. So now we're at the mid-year point, really seeing what growth students are making from the beginning of the year, and then we will have another assessment at the end of the year. And I believe that the results from the winter assessment will be available in Genesis tomorrow, actually, on January 23rd. So be sure to check that out. This one, I'm still so excited that we finally brought this to the district, which is the DIBELS middle year assessment, which is our early literacy screener. Doing this 3 times per year across the K through 3 classrooms. And this is really, geared towards helping students and really finding students who need that extra help and instruction, and being able to then give them that personalized instruction much earlier, so that way we have much more successful readers and they're not getting frustrated as they're moving forward. So this, I believe, is also going to be available in Genesis tomorrow as well on the 23rd. So be sure to check that out. And then in conjunction with that, there will be professional development that's happening for those K through 3 teachers. And Mr. Cullen, I'm going to kick this one particular one over to you to talk a little bit more about, and then I can take it back.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Wright. So we are working to train our teachers even further. I mean, our teachers are dynamic, they're skilled, and they're obviously bringing their A game every day and supporting the development of skilled and enthusiastic readers throughout our K-3 classrooms and, of course, beyond. We're using focus grant money to provide professional development from our administrators and our reading development teachers, so that we're really maximizing the benefits of the DIBELS data. So we have this information, and the question is, how are we going to make it actionable? What are we going to do to support these readers moving forward? So we will be training all K-3 teachers on 2 occasions, one at central office, and then another opportunity within their buildings to talk about specific students and how we can address their reading needs. So that's all happening in February.
Thank you for that. One of the other things that the committee talked about, and I think this is really going to be a great thing once this finally happens, is just finally having all the information for students in one place, and that will be Genesis. And that will actually, I know right now there's like Genesis, there's Linkit, there's some of the other programs, but this, if we're actually able to do this, and I think there was some really good discussion that we're going to finally get there, is that we can have all of the students' scores and all of their testing in the one place in Genesis. So that's the only place where parents will have to look at this point, which would also include all of the NJSLA, NJGPA, right, the PSATs, the SATs, DIBELS, every type of testing that's happening within the district will now just be housed eventually in Genesis, the one platform. And so I think that's really great to see, and so there'll be more to come on that. I know the next one is a big topic within the district, and that's the pre-K and kindergarten information nights. So if you don't know already, that is coming next week on Wednesday, January 28th. It's being held on Zoom. The pre-K session begins at 6 p.m., followed by kindergarten at 7 p.m. And so both presentations will feature all of the important details that you need to know to be able to enroll in both of those programs. So again, pre-K will be at 6 o'clock, kindergarten's at 7 o'clock on January 28th.
And Ms. Wright, we could also note that those will be recorded and posted to our website in the event that someone can't attend.
Yes. So just to quickly, note, we had a really great presentation for student achievement at 6 p.m. before this meeting started. I think one of the really great things is that I think both high schools, is that correct, Mr. Cullen, right, earned the AP honor roll status, which is a distinguished honor from the College Board that demonstrates impressive performance results, coupled with broadening participation on the high-stakes exams that our students take. And I can tell you, from the long list of students from both high schools that were announced at 6 o'clock, our students are excelling in ways that is just unimaginable. And so to be able to have that distinction in both high schools, I think is a really great achievement. So again, kudos to all of those students, and thank you to the faculty that is actually helping our students achieve these really great awards. We talked about I think a Perkins grant now, right, for our CTE program, and how we'll be able to actually bolster that program and to make it even better in what we actually have now. And I think that also led to a really great discussion. I know that we've sort of been hinting around this for a little bit now, for a while. I know myself, as I've talked about it, Ms. Minuis has talked about it, but is also really trying to figure out how to actually have a true trades fair within the district as well. So not only are we going to talk to the students about, you know, other careers that are available to them through the CTE program, but then also for those students who may not want to go to college or think that they're ready to go to college or just trying to explore other avenues, is to actually have the trades come into the district. I think that would be a lot easier for the students, and I know that our vocational school in Monmouth County does a really phenomenal job. I don't want to take anything away from them, but I think there's a piece missing where, for a whole host of reasons, I don't think enough students are understanding what the vocational schools have for them. So if there's a way to actually bring the trades, which I actually think there is, into the school, and do something like when we do the, you know, AP and dual enrollment fairs, right, where the kids go around and talk to the different teachers to find out what's involved in those classes, we can actually invite the trades in and start talking to the students about what those careers look like for them, apprenticeships and everything else. And so I think we had a really great discussion about that. I have some ideas actually in reaching out to some of the trades that I know, getting the New Jersey AFL-CIO involved to help us and just see if we can actually spearhead this, because I've seen it done in other districts and it's a really, really great thing for the students to have. So hopefully there'll be more to come on that.
Yes, and we also had a conversation about increasing the number of internship opportunities for our students in CTE so they can get that authentic experience outside of the classroom. So we're looking to, again, expand upon, you know, our arsenal and see what else we can get our students to do outside of the classroom for the CTE pathway.
Yes. For our high school students, coming up next week is midterms. So I believe the schedule is going to span from the 27th through the 30th. Just highlighting that marking period number 2 officially concludes on the 30th, and then report cards will be visible in Genesis on Friday, February 6th. So good luck to all of the students next week on their
Subject to
exams.
adjustment based on the snow.
Yes.
Because we're probably gonna have to
Yes.
push it, but we have a plan that we communicated today.
Okay. You'll see in your packets for next week that we are going to be voting on professional development that we've done, you know, every month for the teachers. There are specific ones for over 150 and under 150, so I encourage all the board members to review that. We're still looking, and I think, you know, we talked about this last year, but we are looking at figuring out going forward, I think for the next school year, what new math program we are going to be utilizing within the district. And right now there's the 2 pilots that are ongoing between Amplify Desmos and iReady. And so I think we had some initial feedback from teachers, but that's still ongoing, so there's more to come. As we sort of move towards the end of the school year, we will find out sort of what the results are and where we're going to be moving in terms of our K through 5 new math program for next school year. A lot of this was also just sort of informational about what was happening from last year, towards the end of last year. I think those are mostly the big highlights of where we are now. Oh, and I think just maybe one other thing to talk about is we've done this in the past, and the art showcase is going to be returning to the MAC. So I look forward to that because it was really great in the past, and I believe we have a target dates, right, between March 5th and March 27th, but there will be more information to come. But it was really great to hear, though, that that's going to be returning to the MAC this year. I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Facilities, Ms. Minuis.
Yes, we had a really good meeting. We met on the 15th. We discussed and went over work orders, which I had brought up at our last meeting. And I think the concern that I had, and we did discuss it, was that when things happen in a building, parents are gonna see it, staff's gonna see it. The most important part is the superintendent needs to know about it so that when questions are asked and board members ask questions, she knows exactly what went on. So that's gonna be worked on and information is gonna be shared as things go on. We talked about 25, 26 budget projects that are ongoing. We're working on grease trap replacement, which will be on a future agenda. It's a summer item to be funded by the food service, which is what the auditor just discussed, the money that we have in there for the food service. There's a replaced bay door at High School South Stage that we're waiting for quotes on. High School North and South bleachers, ongoing completion by spring break, we're hoping. Bayshore small gym floor replacement of 3/4 of the floor. It will be completed when school is out. Doors for the APR and small gym at Bayshore are done. Repair leaks under and around the library areas in Thompson and Thorne. They'll start in the spring and will be on a future agenda. As you know, both schools are the same model, so they're having the same issues in both schools. Paving outside a path at Bayview, which we're working with the township on getting that done. HVAC units, the bid's going out shortly for unit pricing and replacement units for units that break beyond repair during the year. It's hard to get parts for those units, as we all know. Sometimes it's a little bit of a wait, and we hear buildings are, cold, or certain rooms, like last year we had a few issues, but we're hoping, to get this stuff done. On the January voting agenda, we're gonna have on there the South Jersey Turf Services for High School South and High School North. For the June 25-26 budget, it was allotted $50,136.22. This includes services for the grass fields and artificial turf fields. Bayshore Small Gym, the floor is in there at $64,162. The grant for the New Monmouth Playground for $75,000. We're going to be voting on submitting that next week. Good luck to, I hope we can, help them out a lot. Approving that. We also talked about 26-27 facilities budget, the operating budget, the equipment, and the capital. The committee reviewed preliminary facilities budget information. The facilities operating budget is basically flat. Utility projects are still being reviewed and may be increased. The budget is an ongoing document, so there's, hopefully, be more things put in, but it'll be coming up to the board in the future. There are some equipment items being considered, specifically trucks, to replace aging trucks in the maintenance fleet. The average age of the maintenance fleet is 11.7 years, and only 2 trucks in the 32 truck fleet have been replaced in the last 7 years. Potential options are for purchasing or leasing trucks will be reviewed at the next meeting. Administration is still evaluating potential capital projects through the lens of what is necessary for safety and security of students, as well as funding available in the budget. The Lincroft Annex, the county business administrator did do a walkthrough of the annex earlier in January and said the space looked good. Big difference from the initial walkthrough before the work began. The remaining work for the winter is parking lot painting, punch list items, alarms, shelving, and etc. Items to consider for future budgeting would be window replacements and outside masonry work. Total cost to date facilities purchases of $266,163. The architect was $42,500. Furniture was $42,596, and security cameras were $10,297. The total cost put into the annex so far is $361,556 when we budgeted $200,000. The rest has been absorbed through the budget. Hopefully, we didn't really get an opening date on that, right? We don't know when it's going to be complete. For
Well,
sure.
we're going to start having staff come in and take a look at it. We're actually having our next
Facilities,
facilities
yeah.
and finance meeting over there
Mhm.
next month. So we're going to start doing some limited use of it, but I know Dr. Alphone was saying that we weren't going to fully move programs there full-time.
No, not right now.
Until probably the
September.
Probably
fall.
September, but we'll bring
Yeah.
the kids over
Right.
in the spring so they can get acclimated to the space.
That's good.
Why aren't we, I'm sorry, why aren't we bringing them over in the spring to start?
Because we're not exactly certain of the target date, and the teachers and supervisors of that department had concern regarding transitioning a sensitive population in the middle of a year, like that far into the year.
But that was always our plan, was to do it when it was ready.
Yeah, and we don't have an exact date of readiness, so.
I know, but I hate to hear that we're gonna just use it for meetings when we've spent a lot of money and the kids need, that was the entire point of it, was to have the kids have their own facility.
Well, the facility meeting is only going to be over there for 1 month. We plan to go school to school with our meetings. The high school south turf field, the repair work performed in December was successful in smoothing out the rippling alongside of the home sideline. The findings were we were able to see the condition of the base under the turf when the section was pulled up, and we did get to see pictures of that. Adam brought them, and it does need some work. We're really going to have to start considering somewhere down the line where we're going to have a plan to start putting money aside to replace that field. The base material was very compacted and does not allow for the water to drain effectively, so that really was the problem. Bayview Field project with the township. The district met with representatives from the township regarding the township's improvement plan to the Bayview fields. The township is planning to install an irrigation system, including a well, drainage, sod, and do a small amount of paving on the site. The work is anticipated to be done during the summer of '26 and conclude by September. The township will provide an additional level of maintenance required to maintain these fields for community use. More frequent cutting, lining, fertilizing, weed control, soil and amendments. Let's see, the recap of Advocate facilities modeling. Advocate is working on facilities modeling analysis to benchmark our facilities department staffing against districts that have outsourcing contracts in place for custodial staff. This work is ongoing. We also have the DCO Energy Community Solar, which we looked into, and it's really not viable for our district, so we're not going any further with that. We talked a little bit about budget steps and where the budget process is going. That's more of a finance though. I did ask for us to start looking into the long-range facility plan, and with discussion with Amy, we want to get through the budget process first, and really we're due to put another long-range facility plan in place, and that really should go along with strategic planning. And that's what we discussed in facilities.
Thank you, Ms. Menounos. Next up is finance. We met last evening at our first meeting. We went over 3 items that are on the voting agenda. The first is the acceptance of the auditor's report. We heard the presentation this evening. And then we'll be looking for 2 items that are related to the IDA grant. The first just updates our fiscal year 2026 allocation to incorporate the prior year carryover. And the second amends the preschool portion of the grant to reallocated budget expenses from tuition to salary. There's also 2 quoted routes for transportation that'll be on the agenda. One is Ocean Avenue. It's a change in school from Navesink to Ocean for a special ed student. And the other is Bayview need additional bus for students moving into the walk. We also did the 25-26 budget background. Doherty gave us background on that. And we discussed the overview for the 26-27 budget, which Ms. Doherty is going to be presenting this evening. So, what you think?
So part of our facilities committee meeting was to review basically a 25-26 budget review and 26-27 budget preview. So we're going to bring up, the board has all of this in your packets. We're going to bring up this, I mean, you can either stay in your seats or we're going to show on the screen what's, you know, the presentation is. So Shannon's going to bring that up. Yeah, I think we're fine. You can go. Okay. So just to give a summary of what we were trying to share with the Finance Committee and share with the board at this point, we just wanted to review the key drivers and priorities and things that were impacting our adopted 25-26, our current year budget, and then talk about how that budget development process required the district to address a very significant budget deficit that was further complicated by changes in the NJDOE budget process that were introduced very late in the process. But looking forward to 26-27, the district will still need to find ways to balance anticipated expenditures with available revenue, but our overall projections are much better than last year. So if you want to flip to the next, you can flip that again. Okay, so just reviewing and reminding everybody about the discussions and the development of our 25-26 budget. Our significant pressures there were the final expiration of federal pandemic relief funds, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later. Also a significant amount of non-recurring revenue that was utilized to balance budgets and keep the tax levy increases at an average of 2% over the last several budget cycles. There's also been cost pressures, inflationary pressures, health insurance premiums are an issue for everyone across the board. Liability insurance has ticked up. Transportation is something we're always monitoring, and supplies and materials. So if we want to flip to the next page. So we had this slide in our tentative budget presentation last year, and we just wanted to bring it back just to put some context over the last 3 years of our total budgets. Our budgets are made up of our operating budget, our grants budget, and our debt service budget. So what we're illustrating here is, if you look at the total amount of the spending in 23-24 was at $197 million, 24-25, $198 million, and the current year's budget is at $206 million. But there's a couple of key points to look at on this slide. I mean, if you look at the $206 million compared to the year before, it was about a 3.7% increase. But a lot of that was the increase we had to budget for health benefits, which was about 2.5% of that 3.7%. Overall, between 25-26 and 23-24, our total budget with all of the components went up, a little more than 4%. But what we want to highlight here also is, we just talked about in the last slide, is if you look at the section that says grants budget, back in 23-24, we had a grants budget of $8.2 million. Now for the current year, we're down to 3.8, and that is a result of, we had funding that has expired and not recurring, that we talked about primarily from the pandemic, that was absorbing a lot of our operating costs, and that has ticked down close to $5 million. So that is one of the drivers of our total picture as well. So if you want to flip to the next slide. We did also have this slide in our tentative budget presentation last year, just to give everybody an idea. We utilized several sources of funding that we don't have to draw on anymore. And this did absorb costs in our budget and enabled us to put budgets together. But when those funding sources are no longer available, that's when they need to be replaced. So our 4-year average over those 4 years was about $4.8 million per year in funding sources that we don't have to draw upon anymore. So you can flip to the next slide. This is a recap of our reserves that we updated. Our balance at the beginning of the year that was just audited, July 1st, 2024, we had capital and maintenance reserve, $240,000 and $584,000. We did utilize a good chunk of those during the 24-25 year. We did not allocate anything to the current budget, and so our remaining balances in those reserves are $42,000 and $36,000 respectively. We did also add on here, and we've talked about this, we are self-insured for our health insurance benefits, and being a self-insured entity, we are required to have reserves put aside to offset incurred but not reported claims if we need to transition from being self-insured back to a fully insured plan, and also for claims fluctuation. We budget based upon the advice we're given from our broker and their actuaries on what our claims are going to be for any given year. That's what we budget based on. But of course, that is an estimate and a projection, and if the actual claims come in higher, we have to have the ability to pay those claims because we're responsible for them. We are basically the insurance company. Last year, we began with a balance of $5.2 million, and that was established when we first became self-insured. We really haven't been able to add to it since then, but we did have that money put aside when we transitioned to the platform. We did utilize about $1.5 million of that during the past year to supplement our budget to pay claims. So we're now down to 3.6. So that's something that we have to take a look at replenishing, because that's not at the level of what's recommended for us to keep. So that's something that we're going to be reviewing during this current year. If you want to flip to the next slide. Obviously, the biggest driver of our budget is our salary and benefits expense. Currently, salaries represent about $119 million out of our roughly $200 million general fund operating budget, or 60%. We are currently negotiating 2 new agreements with our bargaining units, the Teamsters bargaining units, facilities in Paris. They will be retroactively effective back to the beginning of this fiscal year. Next year is the last year of the contracts for the MTEA and the MTAA. So we do know what those increases are to budget for next year, but beyond that, we'll have to be negotiating. So the administrative team's also currently reviewing all of our enrollment schedules, identified needs. That's something that's ongoing and that we do every year. Flip to the next slide. This is a recap of our debt service payments that we budget for each year. These are the debt service payments that we'll have to budget for this year. This is a separate component of our budget. There's a separate tax levy that deals with our responsibility toward those payments. That's something that's established and agreed to when a referendum is passed, so it's not something that we have any, it basically happens automatically. We commit to paying the bonds off. So we have 3 outstanding bond issues. Our principal and interest that's due in 26-27 totals $6.5 million. Approximately 20%, or about $1.3 million of that cost, will be offset with state aid. We don't get that number until we get our state aid number for the general fund, but it's pretty consistent. It's been about that level for the past several years. So I'm sure it's going to be about the same. If you take a look at the maturity dates, that's something we've been talking about for a while. 2 of the bond issues mature August 1st, 27, so we'll be budgeting for a full year of payments for them in next year's budget. Then after that, there will only be the August 1st, 27 payment that will be in our 27-28 budget, and those 2 bond issues will be completely paid off. The 2014 bond issue, which we did for the ROD grant projects we did back at that time, that will continue, but that will also be fully paid off by August of 29. So as we've been discussing, in the next few years, we will extinguish all of our long-term outstanding debt as far as bonds go. Flip to the next slide. So talking about this current year, looking at our current total projected revenues, which includes an assumption of a 2% increase in the tax levy, that will bring up our total revenues for the year about 1.46% over what it is the current year, because there's some revenue sources that are decreasing. One of them is our state aid. We did receive a component of the state aid with that tax levy incentive program that doesn't recur, and there's some other revenues that we've adjusted, so about 1.46. But again, these are all preliminary numbers. We're continuing to review and refine projections as we go along. We are projecting state aid as flat. Last year, we did get a 6% increase in state aid. If that equated to roughly 900,000, somewhere along those lines. So we have had no information given to us about state aid for this year. So right now, we're projecting flat if we get the numbers. Obviously, when we get the numbers, we'll adjust to actual. We don't expect any increases in federal funding. That's going to continue to be, at the lower pre-pandemic levels. Expenses that are driving our budget is our essential technology refresh cycles, primarily the Chromebooks and other devices. We continue to evaluate our cybersecurity environment, make sure that we are doing what we need to do there. There are some curriculum and textbook and subscription renewal updates in the budget that we are reviewing. I know they talked about that with the curriculum report. Health insurance is something that we focus a lot on, and we focus a lot on controlling those costs. Our medical claims have actually remained pretty stable. And we're not alone in this, but the prescription is what's really driving our health insurance costs at this point. So we have been working with our broker to put in some measures that will help us control that cost more. We're continuing to look for ways to do that. Right now, we don't have any facilities projects in the budget. As Mrs. Minuit said, we have a list of things that we are considering. It's going to depend upon how much space is in the budget to fund those projects. But again, with aging buildings and equipment that needs replacing, there will have to be something in there. And then, we've had continuing rising costs for special education services, and we're addressing those in the budget as well. Getting back to strategic priorities and planning, as we've been talking about really a lot over the past few years, is trying to get long-term financial sustainability, shifting our focus from short-term fixes to multi-year financial planning and structural budget balance. We also, as we do every year, evaluate program effectiveness to make sure that where we're putting resources is having the most impact on students, and that continues. Our timeline at this point, we have been meeting with our school and department level administrators to review all the needs that have been submitted. We are focusing on staffing and student scheduling. Our tentative budget must be approved by the board and submitted to the New Jersey DOE county office by Thursday, March 19th. So at this point, we have a board meeting scheduled March 17th, and we anticipate that's when we will be approving our tentative budget to submit. That timeline could change with a new governor. They do give the courtesy of more time to establish the state budget, which may push back when we receive our state aid, which could have an impact on when the budgets would be due, but we haven't gotten any of that information yet. Our public hearing and adoption of the final budget must be done between April 24th and May 7th. Our board meeting is scheduled for April 28th, and so at this time, we would anticipate that's when our public hearing would be to adopt our final budget. So we'll continue to review all the information with committees, and we will be in February going over more details on the budget as they've developed.
Thank you, Ms. Starr. Ms. Tobacco, anything on legislative?
We did not have a legislative meeting. We did have a policy meeting. I think that's the next one.
Well, it's mixed up, so you could take policy now, and then we'll just jump back.
Okay, policy committee met yesterday. There are two mandated updates from the NJSBA policy. First policy is number 4111, recruitment, selection, and hiring regarding our employees. The key point of this was the addition of verbiage regarding transparency in job listings. It's something that we actually already do. All of our employees do get emails of job listings as soon as they are posted. So we're already in compliance with this. And the other addition was salary ranges will also be included in all job postings as per the new policy language. The second mandated policy has to do with commencement activities, policy 5127. The key point of this one was the addition of legal references for high school voter registration law resources. We discussed the addition of a legal reference, and that was not present in our previous version. We have been providing students with voter registrations, and they will be educated for their civic duty to vote before graduation. The third policy, 6163.1, Media Center Library. The key point of this policy recommendation was the addition of policy verbiage regarding selection of material and requests for removal. Our committee discussed the addition of language to the policy which outlines the process of curation of library media center materials and also outlines the removal request process. So the process for removal of a book that anybody has a problem with would be a committee of stakeholders who will make a recommendation to the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed determines if the materials in question are removed from circulation after reviewing the committee's recommendations. And the fourth policy that we discussed was 7113, school closure policy, and the committee determined that no changes will be made to that school closure policy. The last one was an information only, no policy changes. It's on the HIB process, voting and appeals.
Thank you, Mr. Negotiations is ongoing. Personnel is closed session. So next up, student services, Ms. Torres.
Okay, student services met after the curriculum committee. There was a lot of overlap, but focused on a few areas. The All-In for Inclusive Education consultation visits are continuing. There have been 3 of them, or 3 scheduled for this year at the elementary schools, talking about different co-teaching models. And one of the things that we talked about was that the co-teaching pairs are banded by grade level to provide more planning time and to make that more consistent. The best practices with inclusive education is something that is continuously emphasized during these sessions. The transition building, the annex, was also talked about, and we talked more about what the building would actually be used for in the different areas within that room to make it more like a authentic experience rather than a classroom. And it should be a very interesting, I'm excited to see it with facilities because there's the space for kitchen, making beds, things like that, like the real life experiences. Additionally, they have like a space for a home gym, which we talked about was like a really important thing. You don't have to go somewhere to maintain a healthy lifestyle and things like that. So that was a good thing as well. Along those lines, the community-based learning has been expanded this year in all grade levels, providing real-world experiences in stores, restaurants, fitness gyms, and that is across elementary, middle, and high school. It's tiered based on level, and that helps strengthen the academic, functional, and social skills of the students. They talked about the extended school year, which is scheduled for Tuesday, July 7th through Friday, August 7th, for students that need to have the extended services throughout the year. They also talked about the projections and scheduling for next year and how that is going in ongoing based on IEPs and the needs, and that fluctuates throughout the year, and that is being compiled for next year. There were 2 specific programs. The Athlete Allies for Autism that visit New Monmouth started off as a baseball program and has expanded to different sports with the high school kids with coming down to the elementary school. And the Fostering Friendship Club at High School South has been reintroduced. And we talked about how that was a good start and how we're going to expand these programs in the future. The Developmental Disabilities Week is coming again in March, and rather than just an awareness week, there's going to be a new component added with education, where there's going to be lessons about inclusion, read-alouds, and assemblies to encourage further learning regarding learning disabilities, or all disabilities really. So that is something that we're looking forward to expanding as well. So that was a good, not just awareness, but bringing in the education for that. The out-of-district trainings and workshop are ongoing. It was discussed during the curriculum meeting, and staff are continuing to attend these opportunities related to inclusion specifically, as well as writing IEP goals and objectives, multisensory strategies, and specialized instruction. So those are a little more detail on some of the PD that's been going on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Technology, Ms. Weinstein.
So the Technology Committee met last week. First and foremost, there aren't any voting agenda items this month, but a couple of different project updates for this year. Let's see, the secondary security camera server project has been completed, so now all the security camera servers for the schools have been upgraded, and new CRG maps have been implemented as well. No hot topic in here, but board meeting audio and video changes. So we have made changes to the audio and video configuration at these meetings. The video quality has improved with the removal of the Zoom streaming component. The video still streams via YouTube. Additional microphones, as you can see, and a new mixing board also increase audio quality. We also might have some additional updates that would include a new amplifier and new speakers to help with sound. We are also migrating all Genesis servers. They have been upgraded from the Oracle database to Postgres. Postgres removes the cost of annual software licensing, and it also provides us with an increase in performance. So it's a win-win. Looking to the next budget, we have reviewed preliminary 26-27 technology information. Overall, the projection is very similar to the current year's budget. District-wide security camera server client software upgrade is being considered, as that is the next step to the server hardware upgrades that have been done over the last 2 years. The current software is about 10 years old, and it's really not sufficient to accommodate all of the capabilities of our security camera system. The budget also includes, of course, a continuation of the Chromebook refresh, and as well as improvement to the district's managed detection response, or MDR platform, to strengthen our cybersecurity environment. We've also have the 25-26 E-rate cycle that's begun. We'll continue to file for Category 1 internet services. This cycle, we will also submit for Category 2 services and replacement of end-of-life equipment for our wireless network. That includes access points, uninterruptible power supplies, and cloud services.
Thank you, Ms. Weinstein. Shared services, nothing to report there. Next is a review of the draft voting agenda. Ms. Barrett? Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
I think all the voting items are covered in the committee reports.
Okay. No questions on that? Okay, we'll move along then. Next up is old business. Any old business?
No. Well, I was just wondering, we had discussed at meetings November, December about recording questions that were a public comment that weren't answered, and they were going to go into the old business. I didn't think it should be on the draft, but do we have a status of that? Like,
We
are
talked
those
about
questions?
it last time as not being appropriate for old business. It's
Okay,
really
so
not
we're-
something that should, occur there. So.
Why
anybody
can't
have-
it go under like the president's report or the superintendent's? Because they have to be answered somewhere. I mean, online is fine, but people are watching the meetings and
I don't
they
know,
want to
Amy,
hear
have you
the
seen it any
questions.
other way on a board agenda?
Well, I think we talked about the fact that the old and new business is really board business, and it's
Right.
it's not a forum for answering public questions, and, as we always encourage everyone to reach out to us directly with questions, but these are really board business meetings.
There's got to be a place on there for the questions to come back and be answered to the public. I mean, we would like to hear the answers too, I think. I know I would like to hear the answers to the
Right. I
questions.
don't know if the board agenda is the place for them though, so we'd have to think of another.
Can we do it at the workshop agenda?
There's no other public meeting to do that at.
Mr. Burns, do you have anything about where it's done in other districts or how it's done in other districts?
It is not done in any district I have represented.
So how do questions how do we ensure questions are answered?
The person from the public usually follows up directly with the superintendent, and the superintendent answers them directly. If you want to set up a website or a link on a website to a page that has basically a database, that's fine. But with respect to other boards, I have not seen a running list of public questions on agendas.
But that doesn't mean that we can't we can't do it.
Or how do we,
If we
like, how
find
do we
a
get the
venue.
questions to the board? Like, how do we ensure they're
Well, but how do
answered?
you,
I guess
how do
that's
you
it.
pick and choose which questions to answer?
You wouldn't, you'd have to answer them all.
You would answer them all, yeah. You would have to.
You'd have to answer them all. Either we can answer them here, or if we don't have the answer, we would come back on somewhere on the agenda the next month and give those answers.
We'll take it into consideration at this time. Any other old business?
Are we going to revisit our monthly meeting schedule or the calendar for this year? Because I don't think it was completely set at the last meeting.
Yes, we will. I know we talked about having at least 2 meetings in March and April. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we left it very open-ended, and I
Okay.
think we had a problem for February when I think it was a good number of people couldn't make the second meeting that was trying to be scheduled. So we just left it hanging. So I think we need to, at some point, we really need to finalize this.
The February meeting was already set, right? Darn.
I believe so. I don't
Do
have the
2
calendar in
meetings
front of me,
for-
but I believe we have a workshop and a.
Yeah,
We
well,
have 2
but
meetings
3
on-
people couldn't make it.
I have the 19th for the workshop meeting.
No, I do too, but I believe the discussion was, I think there were several board members that couldn't make that date. And then going forward, if we're going to continue, and again, this is a point that I made at the last meeting too, is we're doing this hybrid. Some months we're going to do a workshop, some months it was discussed that we didn't need to do a workshop, that's still unclear. If we're going to have multiple meeting dates in a month, that needs to get set very soon. So that way everybody can now have a clear schedule in terms of what's expected.
Well, as I said in the last meeting, I was open to having 2 meetings a month, at least through the budget cycle, which brings us through April. So then we need 2 meetings additional, 1 in March and 1 in April. Then we have the hire or the rehire meeting in May.
Which we already have 2 meetings.
Right, and then we're into the summer. So I'm open to discussing adding 2 meetings for a meeting in each month in March and April, if you want to propose some dates.
Okay. What about September and October? And November?
Well, we have March
Yeah,
17th, we have a
October
meeting
at least.
already.
Right, that's the tentative budget.
March 17th, and when, the 31st also? Yes,
It's spring break.
3rd, 24th.
No, you only have one
We
March
have a
meeting.
tentative budget meeting in March,
On the 17th.
17th.
Yeah, if the tentative budget is the 17th, when are we going to have another public meeting before that for the budget? If we're talking about transparency.
Well, February, we'd be doing a budget update.
Yeah, that's one. We said we were going to have a few.
Well, then the tentative budget gets presented.
Right, and gets voted on the same night.
Right, but it's tentative, so.
But it doesn't matter, it's still public input and informational.
So we would just add a workshop the week before?
The 10th?
I would say,
Yeah.
if we're talking about being transparent, yeah.
Well, and the only thing I'll say is the 10th is very early in the month where, Amy, do you believe that we would have to get committee meetings and just be mindful? Committee meetings will have to be scheduled all in that first week, so.
Yeah, because if the tentative
Just make
budget
sure
isn't
we-
done by the 10th, it's not going to be any better on the 17th. It's got to be in place. You're only having a week before you present it to us and we vote on it.
Is there a reason why that meeting's the 17th and not the 24th?
Because the tentative budget is due to the county.
By the
By the
Yeah,
19th.
we don't have a
So it's
choice in
already
that,
early.
unfortunately.
Unless anything changes
They bump
with
it.
the
They could
schedule
bump
that we
it
don't know
later.
yet.
I mean, there's probably a high likelihood of that, but.
I don't don't know what difference it's gonna make to have a meeting on the 10th and then 17th for that budget presentation. What much is gonna change? I mean, we'll have, and then we're gonna be forced to get all those committee reports in by that date. Unfortunately, we're constricted by what the calendar is and what the date is to submit our preliminary budget.
The point is, we'll have one meeting in February for the public to hear about the budget, and then the meeting in March, we have to vote on the budget.
There's 2 meetings.
We have 2 meetings in February.
Yeah, but we're only gonna have one workshop where the budget's gonna be discussed. That's what we're told, that will be discussed at the workshop meeting.
Okay, and
that's
if there's
one.
any updates for the
We
voting
could update
meeting.
it if we have to at the
could-
voting
could
meeting.
update
Yeah,
it
we
at
could
the
always
voting
update
meeting.
it
We could do it
if
that
there's
way.
changes.
I truthfully think we're going against what was said to the public, that we were gonna have several budget hearings before the tentative budget. And it was said, and now it's not said. I just think we should follow it through. I mean, especially after how last year's went. We all know tentative budgets don't change much.
So do we want to schedule another April meeting?
The 21st will give us a week before the voting meeting.
Yep.
What date are we looking at?
April 21st.
That works.
Okay. You sure?
Which one?
This
21st, I'm definitely
All right, you can have somebody.
not. If that's,
Like the 20th.
Yeah.
So are we adding the 21st?
Right, what we'll have to do is we'll have to present a revised calendar at next week's voting meeting
Right,
for the
to be
board
able
to
to add it,
approve.
right.
Right. So we'll make these adjustments.
But did we decide on a date? Is it the
April
21st?
21st, right? As a workshop meeting.
And then May, we have 2. And then June, we probably don't need to.
No, in July, we
Yeah.
When's the rehire meeting?
May.
August probably make hiring, but we can cross that. It might not be necessary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And then 19th is the board meeting. Right.
we'll put it on the agenda for Tuesday
Yes.
for those amendments.
So March is staying the same, it's just 17th, right?
Yeah, because there's 2, yeah. We have to keep the 17th as is now because of that county deadline. But if the county deadline changes,
We move it back.
we could always move it back.
If we did that, would we be able to do the workshop still on the 17th to do the committee reports and then the budget?
Yeah.
A
yeah.
week later?
And it would be helpful
Could we
to
do
do
that?
it that way, and hopefully we'll know more now that the new governor is in place, and then hopefully we'll get the ball rolling with, when we're going to see our state aid numbers, and, that will be the determinant of that, if that deadline gets pushed. Because the later the state aid figure comes out, they'd be more inclined to give us more time to complete our budget.
So would it make sense to do at our Tuesday meeting, like if we put in March 24th as the tentative budget if needed, kind of? Like, would it make sense to do that, or we have to wait?
No, I think we should wait.
Okay,
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. They could leave it status quo. We'll probably know
Right.
very soon.
Okay.
I
Or we
can't
could always
imagine we
cancel
won't know.
too.
yeah. That's kind of a meeting.
Any other old business?
Yeah, I just wanted to discuss what I brought up at the reorg meeting, and I talked to a few
Oh,
other
you
folks.
did
Yeah, about, getting together and setting board goals, and
Yeah.
any progress on that?
No, not yet. I'll have an update though, in the next couple of weeks, so I'm just getting all the committees set, we had all the meetings, so it's on the list.
Okay.
And, we'll make sure it's taken care of. I know that we talked about it.
Mhm.
I haven't forgotten about it. Any other old business?
I would like to say thank you for making the committees very distributed. So, thank you for that.
I agree.
They were successful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a lot of information to take in, as you know.
Thank you. Okay, new business?
I have an item of new
Oh,
business.
you have new business? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I was, I probably should have jumped in after Mrs. Torres talked about student services, so sorry. But I just wanted to give an update that Middletown Friends of Diverse Learners had a meeting on Wednesday, the day after the student services meeting. We met with Mrs. Granger, we met with Mr. Dory, who's the elementary
Great.
supervisor. It was really great to meet him, as well as Mr. Trezza. He was there for the secondary schools. It was a really comprehensive meeting. I think these meetings with Mrs. Granger are really great. Just quickly sort of going through some of the high-level topics that we touched on. We did go through quite a few of the inclusion updates. We were able to hear again about the consultation visits that are happening from All In. So it was good, I think, for MFODL to be able to hear those updates as well. We sort of looked at the co-teaching model again in the general ed classes, especially beyond ELA and math. I think we had a really good discussion around the status of the in-class consultation model. So here in the secondary, that's for world languages, and then in middle school, that's for social studies and science. We talked about sort of the successes that we've seen already in the district around the communication boards, right, for the playgrounds. I believe the one that was just done was at Harmony. Where else we can start bringing those to some of the other schools, and as well as the success of sensory pathways in some of our elementary schools, and now bringing that hopefully to schools throughout the district as well. We talked about strategic planning, sort of where we were at, how that's going to be starting up again very soon, and making sure, obviously, that those committees are identified as well. We had a discussion, I think we touched on this a little bit, but more around what additional unified sports hopefully we can bring to the district. I know we're about to have a unified basketball game next month on the 12th versus Neptune. Unified cheer is going to be coming back as well, but then what other sports we can hopefully bring to the district. They were given an update about the transition building, so that was very exciting. I think everybody's really looking forward to rolling that out. We discussed with them about the more enhanced planning around the Development Disability Week, how it's going to look much different, I think, in elementary as well as the secondary schools, and some really great ideas to really pull in the students at both middle school and the high school level, and then additional programming that hopefully MFODL and the district will be able to do together for the remainder of the school year. So it was a really good meeting.
Thank you.
New business.
Yeah.
New business?
Yeah.
So I just want to let the public know that at our board meeting next Tuesday, Mr. Haber and Mr. Amon, his associate, will be coming to do a presentation to both the board and the community on the findings of the boundary analysis and facilities utilization study. If for any reason our board meeting gets canceled because of snow, because with that much snow you never know, we will have to re-sunshine the meeting, and we'll bring him into whenever that rescheduled date is. We're working on their availability currently, just in case that happens. So they'll come in and do a formal presentation and to everyone at once, the community and the Board of Education.
Can we just hold that meeting if it does happen?
We are going to hold it in the auditorium, yes. No, we're going to be setting those within the next week, now that we know that that report is going to be presented.
Any other new business? Okay. Let's open it up to public comment for 30 minutes.
Hi, Kristen Rooney, Middletown. Just a quick question. What did you decide about the dates? I didn't follow. Did you pick dates for?
For the meeting?
Yeah, the dates that you were just
Yeah,
discussing.
but they're gonna be on the voting meeting
Okay, so
next
that'll be-
week, so it'll be published. We're gonna have to,
Okay.
we'll put it on, for the agenda Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
It was April 21st
Okay,
that we added.
okay. I guess I'm just confused because I thought that we had talked about previously adding more meetings before the budget process. Because I had asked about when we're gonna see the budget a couple meetings ago, and Dr. Alphone, you had said that.
We have 2 meetings in February as well.
Okay,
So we have, it's almost the end of January, so we have basically a mid-February meeting and a later meeting
the
in
workshop-
February. So we can do an update at the second meeting, so there'll be a workshop and a regular meeting in February.
okay. And the regular meeting, so you can do an update at that meeting, or?
We can do it at both
You
meetings,
could do it
is
in-
what we were saying,
Okay,
yes.
okay, because normally the preliminary budget,
It's March
It's
17th
the
is
March.
when we
Okay.
have the meeting to present the preliminary budget, unless, of course, the state pushes the date back because of the new governor, which they get additional time to
Okay.
establish the budget.
okay, got it, thank you. And I just had a question about just the process for the committees. I really wanted to thank all of you because I think this was great, having every committee reporting, and we got a lot of information. So I think on behalf of a lot of people, thank you for that. My question is about the process for the committee meetings, and I know we had said in the past that you do have minutes that are recorded or notes. Who records those, and where could those be found? Like if somebody wanted to go back and look, how does that work?
Well, right now, the liaisons from the administrative team record the minutes and share them with the committee chair from the board, and then report out from there. Right now, they're housed, in our kind of behind the scenes
Like
board
internally?
docs.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about and discuss amongst the board if we wanted to put out a shortened version of like bullet point notes for the community, but that's something that, we have to determine how that's gonna look.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
If it could just be posted somewhere in all the other documentation.
Sure.
Just to see like who was at the meeting and the general overview. Especially if you're not gonna watch the meeting, it's an easy way to go back and get the updates. I think that would be great. So thank you. Thank you.
Scott McPherson, Middletown resident. Ms. Doherty, your presentation, the PowerPoint, is that going to be put up on the website?
Yes.
Okay. And then the Haber report, have they actually delivered an actual report to the district?
No.
Will the actual report be released simultaneously with the presentation at the next board meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna provide it to the public once we have the finalized draft from them, and we're all seeing that at the same time. So we will definitely post it on the website and make it public information.
And then as far as, you mentioned the snow a couple of times, and
Yeah.
it's my understanding that pursuant to state law, you cannot have virtual learning, isn't that correct?
Correct,
'Cause
correct.
I know you're gonna see on social media people saying, well, why can't they just go?
No, we will not be going virtual. We're in a good position in the sense of we built in snow days into our calendar. So if you recall, we did that last year for the first time. So Easter Monday is our first day that if we do have a school closure, that would get eliminated from the calendar. And then our second date is the Friday before Memorial Day. So we have 2 days to play with, which is great. It does seem to be a significant storm. I'm hopeful if, given the situation, that maybe it's a closure Monday, delay Tuesday. But again, it's a big area of space for not necessarily us to clear, but also the township to do all the side roads and, that's a concern, and with the ice and the temperature. So we will always err on the side of caution. I've said it before, I'll say it a million times, but we do have 2 days to play with, and as Mrs. Wright had mentioned in her report, we do have midterms for our high schoolers, which start off next week. We have publicized a plan for that. We have just made the determination that we're going to communicate that now, because it does seem like we are going to get snow. That way all of our teachers and our students at high school can rest easy knowing the plan.
Right, yeah,
So.
and we appreciate you putting the safety of the students, the staff, the administrators.
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
first.
and,
Makes sense.
we don't want anybody in harm's way and anybody waiting at a bus stop with icy roads or wind or sub-freezing temperatures.
And then my last just kind of question was, I think Ms. Minuis, you brought up the LRFP, the long range facility plans. It was my understanding that was a major amendment was done September, October. Isn't that accurate?
Yeah, last October.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Ms. Doherty, that was a major update. That my understanding of this of the law is it's a major amendment due every 5 years, and that was the major
Yes, and
amendment
that
was done.
also coincided, we were required to do that to get the approvals for the disposal of the vacant property as well, so it all tied together.
Okay. So is the idea that we're going to do another amendment to the LRFP sometime this spring?
No, we're not planning on doing an amendment, but we need to start reviewing it
Prioritize.
to prioritize in conjunction with doing strategic planning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Bernard Doss, Middletown resident. My comments surround, and Amy, I'm going to wind up sending you an email on this with a list of questions surrounding the annual comprehensive financial report, but I'll put it on the record and then I'll email you. No red flag necessarily, but things that I think merit further explanation and notes. So there was a restatement tied to compensated absences that I think merit a little bit more of a layman's explanation on. I'll send you my specific question on that. Seems to be a new or emerging liability that was restated in this financial report. The sale of the Port Monmouth property is listed in there. It has a one-time sort of episodic revenue stream, and it's just listed as sale of property. So for the unacquainted person who just came through, I know it's Port Monmouth, but there's absolutely no explanation of this kind of odd, one-time, unusual revenue sale of property. So I'd say, page 21, where there's like an opportunity for management comments, it would have been appropriate to add something there. And I'm not sure if HFA adds that or if that's you, but I'll email about that. Ms. Minuis, there's a $5 million drop in plant operations maintenance year over year. So since you're overseeing that, that committee now, I think that's something, it's a substantial drop year over year. So like any kind of financial report where there's like, a big difference on a specific line item year over year, it's usually appropriate to call out and with an explanation. And a more general comment, having looked at these year over year over year over year, I'm not seeing a lot of notes related to the depletion of the reserves, basically. So like, it's a financial report, it's mostly tables, I get it. We don't have time to put big narratives on everything, but there probably should be some notes when we're dipping into the reserves. So that's kind of my 4 kind of observations about the ACFR, is the compensated absences, the lack of explanation on the Port Monmouth property sale, 22% drop in plant operations budget, and like we're just casually burning through reserves without a lot of comment in the ACFR as far as I can glean. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishes to comment?
Katie Littlepage, Middletown.
At the last few meetings, I would hear Ms. Minuis, you would say that you were frustrated with the way that the workshop meetings went, and you said this isn't how they're supposed to be done. And I'm just genuinely curious because this is also my first time seeing workshop meetings be done. So I'm just wondering if you could speak to how it went tonight. Do you feel like this is how workshop meetings have been successful in the past, or would there be anything that you would suggest to make them more productive?
I think that this one is better because I really couldn't say the last one was a workshop meeting. I think that the reports out and our committees, that when we met, we got a lot more information and we're sharing it with the board so that everybody's aware of what's going on. And I think that was a piece that was missing. I would hope, like in the future, if there are some big issues, like maybe even with the budget presentations, that we have our administrator liaisons give more of a report on why we're doing something, why we're picking this to do over that. But that's really more, I would say, during a budget process. But I think this workshop meeting was much better.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. And I agree with the budget topics that are coming. I really appreciate all of the effort put forth by everybody tonight to schedule adequate meetings leading up to the tentative budget that's going to be presented in mid-March, because and I would just like to suggest that in those meetings leading up, some big ticket items could really be discussed before that March 17th meeting. So maybe in the February meetings, where everyone's heads are at in terms of big ticket items like redistricting or closures or things like that, so that we can start discussing in February and it's not this big, surprise of something happening in March. Another point, Ms. Torres said that, brought up an old business about questions getting kind of lost, questions from the public, questions from the board, and would it be appropriate to put them in old business? And it seemed like perhaps maybe it's not appropriate to put it in old business. I do think it is a valid thing to do because the community is quite engaged here in Middletown, and we want to make sure that things that are concerns and questions that are brought up are not getting lost and are actually being followed through. One suggestion that I had made a couple meetings ago was actually live during the meetings in the same way that Ms. Doherty was able to put up her presentation. I don't know if it would be our lovely media employee or even a board member that could volunteer, but just as the question is asked, someone typing it up on the screen. That way there's and then the answer could also go up, and the answer could be what the answer is, or that there is no answer at this time, and to please email and put that there, because that way this is being streamed on YouTube and everybody at home could just see it right there in real time, and it's much easier for the public to and they can reference it again on YouTube, and then there's no extra step. So is that something that we could do?
Yeah, we should discuss it.
Yeah, we'll have to discuss it.
Okay. Okay, I brought it up a few meetings ago, so was hoping that maybe we could decide tonight, but that's all right. Okay. Oh, I guess my only other concern was that the Shared Services Committee, did you meet, or because you said there was
no meeting set.
No meeting yet?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Okay, with that, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?